This is the second piece of a two-part series of the Voyager episode, Unimatrix Zero. It's also an entire breakdown of the Borg as a whole. Check in the top right-hand corner for the first part of the Unimatrix Zero breakdown, or why not just start from the very beginning and enjoy the rest of your evening in style? You decide. When analyzing the beginning of the quote-unquote Borg Civil War, it's curious to see how inefficient the collective is. They literally kill thousands of drones to take down one or two. While you could make the argument that there are millions to spare, if you ask me, such inefficiencies are far from perfection. While I've stated that I won't discuss the episode itself, but more just the Borg's interactions in it, there is a piece of Unimatrix Zero Part 2 that fascinates me. Specifically in the episode, when Janeway, Tuvok, and B'Elanna are assimilated, they somehow keep their individuality. So you're telling me that after assimilation, the Borg simply wouldn't notice that these new drones haven't been added to their own? Now, some might argue that it's a ploy, that the Queen clearly is aware of them but was trying to hide the fact. But we know that isn't true because they're using a suppressant that allows them to stay unnoticed. And it's only after the suppressant begins to wear off with Tuvok that the Queen is able to notice them and even states, "I heard the Vulcan. Why can't I hear all of them?" It is possible that, given assimilation probably occurs every minute of every day, the collective simply wouldn't notice three voices. But these aren't exactly random NPCs from the planet Hoth. Janeway, a woman that has thwarted the collective and specifically the Queen quite a few times, has been captured, and then after assimilation they just don't notice that her and her crewmen can't be heard? They don't see that at all? Additionally, we know that the Queen can identify when a single voice on a cube has gone silent, so when she heard Tuvok, how did she not exactly find the cube that Tuvok was on? And if she already knew, why didn't she send other Borg after them? You're telling me the Borg don't know how to search for rogue Borg on their own ships. But regardless, go unnoticed they would until the collective overwhelmed Tuvok, but not before Janeway was able to get the virus that allows the freed drones in Unimatrix Zero to stay individuals when they wake up from the regeneration cycle. Let's talk about that for a moment. When I was challenged about the central plexus and it transmitting to the entire collective, many theorized that there are firewalls or perhaps a mini collective that everything is tested at first. While this is possible, there is no dialogue or reason to believe that it's true in any of the episodes. Unfortunately, like many things, we may just never know. Back to the analysis, Tuvok ultimately succumbs to the collective and betrays his friends, as I've noted. Another interesting point here though, the Queen specifically thanks Tuvok once Janeway is captured. She thanks him. However, even with the capture of Janeway, the virus ensures that all of the Borg that were a part of Unimatrix Zero are freed. This would be unfortunately for one of the freed Borg too, since he was right next to the Queen when it happened. But we'll get back to that in a second. The Queen wanted to talk to Janeway and thus had the Borg force the captain into an alcove to have her image transmitted to where the Queen is located. Before the image got there, the Queen modified the transmission so Janeway's image didn't look like a Borg drone, but herself. Again, this seems extremely inefficient to me. Every time the Borg interacted with the crew of Voyager, they tried to assimilate or utilize technology that would make the discussion easier. Why didn't they do this with Janeway? Janeway already has Borg implants, so why not just connect her directly? Janeway is using a suppressant to keep her freedom true, but just neutralize it, and then Borgify her. This would make her thoughts the thoughts of the Queen. How is that not any more efficient than what she actually does here? However, it may be that all of this is for the benefit of Janeway, though I still don't understand why we care about what Janeway wants. The Queen even states how vain Janeway is, thus utilizing her image. Maybe she's doing this as an attempt to get Janeway to capitulate of her own free will, because that has always worked out every time they've tried to get a human to capitulate of their own free will. Looking at this continued manipulation, the Queen shows Janeway the freed Borg that I had discussed before and that she had killed. In the dialogue, the Queen stated that she had to, because of what Janeway did. The Queen demands an antidote, and Janeway states that they didn't make one. The Queen threatens to assimilate Voyager to get to the Doctor, and like we've seen before, Janeway states that she had given orders to delete the Doctor before assimilation could occur. It's interesting, this is the second or third time that Janeway has given orders to delete the Doctor. It's not exactly a new trick. You would think that the Queen, or the Collective, would have come up with a plan to counteract this tactic. But counter it they wouldn't, so we would see Janeway and the Queen swap barbs, which, again, why? The Queen is being drastically inefficient here. Assimilate Janeway and then have her pretend to not be assimilated to get the jump on Voyager. But instead of using my incredibly thought out idea, the Queen would have to endure Janeway relishing in the fact that a lot of damage will be done to the Collective. Now, for all of the issues I have with this episode and its impact on Borg lore, there is a pretty good play by the Queen here. She agrees with Janeway that the Collective will have a tremendous amount of damage, and so she decides to show Janeway the damage it will do. She starts exploding vessels on ships where as little as one voice has gone quiet that she can't find, on a vessel that has tens of thousands. Now, this would be good for a regular Starfleet officer, and we'll get back to that in a minute, but ultimately, even with this play being impactful to someone who cares about life, it's ridiculous. Again, I've discussed it, but she can't identify which Borg are not a part of the Collective. Are the Borg like Cylons, where they can't see or harm other Borg? Does the Queen personally have to identify them? When you think about it, and you watch the episode, it's only when the Queen sees the Borg that they realize that this isn't one with the Collective. The other Borg don't seem to notice. So if she can't individually look at them, the Borg are screwed. So instead of doing the arduous process of linking into another Borg drone and finding them, she just starts blowing ships to hell. Now again, I don't like this writing when it comes to the Borg, but I do like the manipulation tactics of the Queen. With most Starfleet officers, this would have an impact. She begins killing Borg by tens of thousands in front of Janeway, and all because of what Janeway did, pointing out that these deaths are on Janeway's hands. You can even see the pain on Janeway's face. It's really well done, really well acted. Of course, ultimately, she is dealing with Insaneway, so she should know that even though she's appealing to the Starfleet officer within Janeway, which is just a fraction of a percent that exists in her still, killing people by the thousands? Janeway will go back in time and change the entire timeline of the Alpha, Delta, Gamma, and Beta quadrants. Ultimately, the Queen is a noob when it comes to destroying people's lives. But Janeway lore aside, we see that the Queen is her own person. Janeway challenges the Queen to go to Unimatrix Zero. And when there is hesitation, Janeway asks if the Queen is afraid that she'll get a taste of individuality. Here's the thing. If the Queen is just an avatar of the Collective and she goes, isn't the Collective going as well? So technically none of this is logical because any Borg drone of the Collective would see the same thing when that Borg drone is sent to kill the freed drones. So visit Unimatrix Zero the Queen would and ultimately come back unimpressed. As I stated in the last episode, the Borg cannot investigate, research, and come up with conclusions on their own, so naturally, they retrofit the nanovirus that freed all the Borg to make it so it would kill them. Because why the hell should they or we care about continuity at this point? So with that out of the way, the Queen attempts to negotiate with Janeway, telling her to go in and convince the drones to return to the Collective before they are killed. And to be honest, there is some continuity here. It seems like the Queen and the Collective care about these drones. When you think about it, it was only one drone in a million or some such like that, so you're not losing that many in the long run. But she's willing to go out of her way, even negotiate with an inferior species to get the drones back. It's a nice little piece of continuity given that the rest of this episode didn't care. Janeway pretends like she's agreeing with the Queen and contacts Voyager to disrupt and destroy Unimatrix Zero. She uses double entendre to ensure that Unimatrix Zero is destroyed, but allows the Borg to stay freed. Chakotay understands the order that was given, and with Unimatrix Zero destroyed, ultimately Voyager would be joined by a sphere that has been taken over by Borg rebels. Of course, they wouldn't get any Borg technology, because why the hell would they? But Voyager and the Borg sphere attack the tactical cube to get their people back. I ultimately have mixed feelings about this attack. A tactical cube can take down a Borg sphere, no question. However, I do think that now that we have similar tech, it's more even and it would take some time to destroy the sphere. Additionally, Voyager is updated with advanced tech, including from the 31st century, so this might be more of an even fight than people let on. So the fact that Voyager and the sphere are able to destroy or at least weaken the cube doesn't surprise me. The Queen would move to destroy the cube, and thanks to the help of B'Elanna, Voyager would be able to get all of their crew back. The sphere and Voyager would part ways for Voyager to begin its trek on home. The only other piece here I don't like, and it's not connected to the collective specifically, is the recovery rate of B'Elanna, Janeway, and Tuvok. While Tuvok would take a couple of weeks, Janeway and B'Elanna seem to be fixed almost instantly. When we look at what happened to other people, including Seven of Nine, Jean-Luc Picard, and even others in Voyager, it takes a long time. What occurred to them is a dramatic thing. It's not something that I think that you can get over in just a couple of hours or with a cup of tea. But of course, this is Voyager, and that's what they do. All right, guys, stay tuned because we're almost at the end. We got one more episode to go over, and then discussing the Queen and Collective overall, and then we'll see what else comes in the next long-form series.